So let the book of the face on to make sure that we're live on both. Again, if you're catching me on TikTok, hashtag live. It's been a while since I've been live and so much going on, so much going on, but then I can't talk about it right now. So hopefully in May I'll be able to talk about it. But just saying. Again, if you're here, hashtag live. If you're catching the replay, hashtag replay wherever you're at. All right. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, oftentimes the news puts information in place that gets us consuming the news and getting in a place where we are very much stirred up, too stirred up to be able to do anything about it. So I know my work is around operations and systems, and the title of this, When Systems Failed. And this is unfortunately an example of a systems failure happening in real time. And oh, let me type. Okay. All right. So I should be live on Facebook. And I have the computer and this. So if I'm looking away, TikTok, please don't mind me. Because then, and Keisha, hi, how are you? So, um, to say this, I'm not here to debate any type of politics or stir emotions because if anybody knows me, I don't like politics. I was married to a man who was in politics and we're getting a divorce. That should tell you something. Okay. So, again, I'm not here to debate politics or stir emotions, and there's a reason I refuse to watch the news, but this showed up on my For You feed. And it breaks my heart to see, and honestly, it's a real life example of system failure. Okay, because then in this case, the training that was supposed to be in place to ensure that this agent did not resort to shooting this woman or unaliving this woman by taking pew pew 4 times because she decided to drive away. If the proper training and systems were in place to ensure that somebody does not have the gall to do things like that, right? It would make a difference. Because we're at a place where I see comments and people are like, "Oh, but she was driving a car. The car was a weapon." Shut the hell up. I'm sorry. Like, shut up. Because at this point, in no way possible does this justify like pew-pewing someone 4 times because they're driving away because the car wasn't mobile and the car started moving. It was going at a slow pace. Because my thing is, if you see my car moving, you better get out of the way. This man wasn't not even in front of the car when he took those shots. I'm not sure if you were able to watch the video, but he was not. He moved to the side. So apparently he had the common sense to move to the side, but he still took them shots, right? And unalived this woman in Minnesota. Like, I kid you not. Like, seeing these comments that she was driving a car was a weapon. Shut the hell up. That's what I felt like saying. But it's hard to engage with people on social media, especially the fools that are on social media, because everybody thinks their opinion is more important than what's actually happening. And I'm sorry, there's no justification to what happened. Just like the same year, I stopped watching the news when the whole thing with George Floyd. I stopped watching the news because that was not justified as well. And there continues to be a system failure throughout because why? And that's my thing. Why is there a system failure across the board? That's what we need to look at. Like the policies are failing, human beings. The policies are failing us. The accountability loops don't exist. These are all examples of systems. Now, that's when I say that when systems fail, people can get unalived. And there's a reason that I value operations and systems in the work that I do because people don't understand it is the backbone of any institution. So when we think about a big picture, it's the backbone of an institution. So think about government. It's the backbone of the government, right? Because they have systems in place. It's the backbone of a company, of a corporation, and it ensures that it's able to have decisions that are being made. There's a decision chain happening to ensure that it's functioning properly, right? There are accountability loops. Like, how are we keeping you accountable if you do something you're not supposed to do, right? And if you're on TikTok and you're commenting, I'm not wearing my glasses, I can't read it. Okay, so I'm letting you know right now that I cannot read it because the far is too foam from my eyes and I cannot see it. So the accountability loops, when we think about systems, that is part of it, right? If that does not exist in the whole infrastructure, there is a problem. Because then my question is, what's going to happen with this agent that took his shots at this woman? Is there an accountability loop? Because anybody watching with clear eyes to see, no matter what this woman did wrong, he was not in physical danger because he could have moved, and he did. He did move. So why was it that he took those shots at that woman? It was not necessary. And I don't care what you say. You can go fight your mama and go fight air about this. Don't argue with me because I honestly don't care. Because then I can't see it anyway. Like, whoever wants to argue with me about this, you can argue because I can't see it anyway and I don't care. He was not justified. And I don't care if you are a Trumper, if you are on opposite side of the table, it was not justified. And the lack of accountability and common sense in people just seeing things for what it is baffles me. And it's hard for people to get close to me outside of business as a friend because of I can be very objective and will call people out on their BS. Like, if you're my friend and you're complaining about your divorce or whatever, like me, I'll complain about my divorce and say I was stupid, right? I will tell myself that. Look at myself in the mirror and apologize to myself for calling myself that because I understand my part. So when it comes to my friends and my clients, even, I will call you out when your decisions are affecting you in your business negatively. The reason for that is the lack of accountability needs to stop. And if there's no accountability loop for that agent that made that decision, we're going to keep experiencing the same thing. Because yes, we forced accountability with the officer with the whole George Floyd thing, but it's still happening. It's happening in Minnesota, y'all. So, it's still happening. So what is it that needs to change? Is it policies? What needs to change? Is it that we need to act out of pocket? What is it that needs to change for these things to not happen anymore? Because at one point, the systems are going to have to be in place where they make sense for us. Because last time I checked, there was a part that says we the people. That's the part that people take for granted. We have more say than we think we do, but we complain too much. We complain more than we take action, right? Because then we'll share our grievances, we'll protest, we'll walk. And remember, I said I was going through a divorce, y'all. One thing my soon-to-be ex-husband told me, and I took it as a lesson. He's like, people waste time protesting, not realizing they don't care. So, okay, so that's the part I need people to wake up on. We are complaining, posting, asking people to share, and doing all of this, but we're not changing the things that affect how these agents and officers are behaving, the systems and these institutions. Because these institutions, trust, believe it or not, they refuse to accept change. And those little minute places is where we need to start changing, right? These systems need to change because it's like they refuse oversight from other organizations or other places in the government. Because then, for those who saw, I was part of a program called the City Management Academy for the city of Sacramento. And one thing we learned from one of the departments is that there's a department that manages and provides oversight for the fire and police department, right? But the one that they had the most issue with that does not want to adopt changes they asked for is the police department. So, do you understand when I say like when change needs to happen, usually stop looking at things that you have no control over because the people up there, we can't reach them. Go for here because these people are closer to you, right? Go there because then when you affect the people down here, then they're gonna get scared and talk to the people here. And the people here are gonna get freaked out and talk to the people here. So you need to go meet people where you are. Because if you don't have access to up here, you can't be trying to affect people up here. Because you're here talking about Trump like he knows you exist. He don't. He don't care. He does not care. Okay? I will say it plainly. So start where you are. Because unless you got big pockets and you up there, start over here. Like, hopefully that visual can help. I'm a very visual person. Like, so, and that's what I'm going to tell you. Like, start where you are. Because the systems, when we have systems failure, then people can get unalive. Different bad things happen within an institution, a company, an organization. So you need to be very mindful of that and take that into consideration because systems will include things like policies, decision chains, accountability loops, like I was saying, oversight, and incentives. And harm happens when these systems are not clear and people or individuals within this institution are taking actions that are not meeting these systems. Like the policies, they're not following policies. There's the decision chain is broken. Where, okay, who was supposed to make a decision on this? Nobody knows, right? Who's accountable for this? Like this man that took the 4 pew-pews at that lady. Who's going to keep him accountable? All right. So these things are systems. And that's what I talk about when I talk about systems within the operational framework of things, right? So these lack of clear operational guardrails is where we see danger, is where we see the problems happening. And that's where I want everybody to come back to center and clearly address these issues, right? Because, like, let's say there's no escalation protocol. What happened? What's the protocol for something like that? Because then I saw something on my TikTok, people were throwing snowballs at this man's face. Like, at least they're doing something. But what are the escalation protocols here? Like, what happens in a situation like that? Because whether you like it or not, I don't care who you support and who you do not support, a human is still a human. If you are okay with people being treated like crap, then what does that say about you? Maybe you belong in the same toilet. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Because then I might not like someone, but that does not mean I condone them being treated like garbage. And that is treating someone like garbage. That person is driving away. You could have called the police to catch her on the highway. You could have rammed her car for all I care, but you permanently ended her life by taking those 4 shots. So, again, if that poop emoji is what your behavior and attitude fits, by all means, go adopt it and put it on your wall. And I am not one to sugarcoat things. And usually that's why if I'm in a bad mood, I stay away from going live because I will speak my truth. But this is one of the videos like I keep seeing this thing. I stay off social media. This is the last time I'm gonna talk about it. Trust me. This is the last time I'm gonna talk about it because my motto for 2 years has been mind your business, Stacy. And I mind my business, but I see things, I observe things, I peep, and I keep moving. But I'm gonna remind you if the systems and the institution are not changed, we're gonna keep experiencing the same thing. Okay? So I'm going to move forward. Now we're going to talk about what leadership looks like when systems are working and what happens when they're not, right? So, leadership, when systems are working, what leadership would be doing at this point is calling this person, taking their badge, and proceeding to have some kind of PR announcement or something addressing this issue head on because it's important for a great leader or a leader in an institution to have protocols for what happens in a situation like this. But what happens when they're not? When they're not doing their job? Like I said, I don't watch the news. I don't know what they did afterwards, and it's none of my business. But a leader that's not doing his or her job or their job would probably just let it ride because that's they don't know what else to do. And usually leaders that have no, I'm thinking of the word cojones, right? That don't have it will do nothing and just look at you. And that's why I say it's very important for whatever business, company, organization you have to structure it, have systems in place, make sure things are running smoothly, right? Because you need to realize there's individual misconduct and there's organizational responsibility here. Because right now, we're seeing too much happening. There needs to be a level of institutional responsibility. So that's why I challenge you, your company, your organization, to think about what you're going to have in place to dictate what happens in terms of individual misconduct. Because things like that are not okay. They are not. Okay. So really think about it. And leadership needs to be held accountable even if they're not present. Because everybody has a tendency to blame the president for what's going on in them streets. Sure. But which of the leaders is actually directly responsible for these ICE agents? How about we find out that? Because you remember the visual I gave you? Everybody's going for up here and they're not going for down there. You're down here. How can you challenge the person that's down here to actually take action so the message can get to the top? Because you can't be talking to the president who's up here and has layers of management in between you. Hi, honey. Layers of management in between you, and you're not talking to the person here who's overseeing what's going on in your community. And that's what I want you to realize. You need to start, like, I don't want to say badgering, but you need to start talking and holding these people responsible at the level where you are so you can actually do more. Advocacy starts where you are. And then you move on. And then you move up. But if you're not even talking to the basic level, the people that are actually responsible for what's in your community, how are you going to make a difference? Honey, so what I'm talking about is, I don't know if you saw it on your For You page. Something happened in Minnesota where this woman was pew-pewed 4 times because she tried to drive away and she lost her life. And I'm talking about a failure of systems. Failure of systems sometimes mean people die. So that's what we're talking about here. People get unalive. And the other thing is that leaders don't usually get credit for intent. Sometimes leaders do the right thing. The right thing might not look like it to you, but that's all they can do. So kudos and hats down for the leaders who are actually doing what needs to be done, but nobody sees it. And that's what's very important. Sometimes the leaders are doing what they can, and they shouldn't be judged by outcomes because they can control individual misconduct, but there needs to be systems in place and accountability loops to deal with this individual misconduct if it happens. And again, like I said, it's an unfortunate example to be using, but it is a teaching lesson. You need to fix your systems, just like the systems within our institution need to be fixed. And if we do not, then it's going to show up and it's not going to feel good because this level of system failure isn't unique to federal agency. And by the way, if you're live, hashtag live, if you're catching the replay, hashtag replay, I always forget to say that, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's not only unique to federal agency, it shows up everywhere when systems fail, right? So it becomes a pattern across institutions and organizations that you need to be very mindful of. Oh, okay. So your nonprofit, your government agency, your corporations, your companies, the systems, schools, even healthcare systems, the systems hold the whole thing in place. And if you do not have that, things can crumble. So, like, think about undefined authority, right? Poor training. I'm sure you've seen examples of people on a team not receiving the proper training and not doing well, right? And not knowing how to deal with people. All of these are examples of system failure. The feedback loops are non-existent, right? And what else did I have on here as an example? The consequences, non-existent, no real consequences. Oh, you didn't do that properly? Go home. I'll see you in a week. You know, no pay or paid leave. These are no real consequences. So, what are the real consequences for misconduct or things that happen? These are all examples of systems. Okay. And people should not, like, the other thing is people afraid to slow things down because then I've been saying for I think well, I started saying that in 2024. Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up because sometimes you have to slow down to look at under the hood to see what's working, what's not working, fix it. So sometimes people are afraid to slow down, and that's why the systems are not working because they don't want to slow down and fix it. They don't want to fix what's broken. They don't want to fix what's not working because when people feel rushed, unchecked, or untouchable, someone always pays the price. So there needs to be systems in place to check people because you do not want anyone to feel unchecked or untouchable, and systems is how that's fixed. So you have to think about how are you going to ensure that the systems and policies for institutions you live in, or even companies you're running, or organizations you're head of, are changed to ensure that people are held accountable and doing what they're supposed to do. Because the real question always ends up being, what can we do to prevent this? If you had systems in place, you wouldn't have to think about how to prevent it. It will happen, but it'll be once in a blue moon. So having systems in place gets helps you get ahead because then I always say that you have to be proactive and not reactive. Because if you are proactive, that means you're preparing for eventualities of things not going the way you want them to do. And that's why you set up systems in your organization to ensure that you are addressing issues before they occur. Like, nip it in the bud before it happens. These things. So think about how you can prevent things from happening by actually being proactive and not reactive. Because we can't wait for something like this to happen every time and then say, oh, how are we going to keep him accountable? Because then we didn't have a systems in place to hold this man accountable before he took his four pew-pews at this woman. So, what systems can we have in place to make sure that we keep people accountable in our institutions, companies, organizations? Now, accountability systems can look different in different areas. Because one thing I tell people is operations and systems, they they do the same thing for because then you can even have systems in your own house. And I have a dear friend of mine, that's what she teaches like mothers to do, how to have systems in their home to run a efficient home. But then accountability systems for me, I do this with businesses and organizations, right? So you have to think about like how decisions are made, right? Accountability systems, like where there needs to be mandatory pauses, when you need to tell people to sit down and bench them, right? What are the escalation points? When do you escalate things? When is there independent oversight where the oversight is not coming from internally? So let's say that oversight for a department is a department itself. When is it that you need to have independent oversight so there's no bias? Okay, so I want you to think about these things. Accountability systems, the other way it looks like is documentation and transparency, where you document things and you're very transparent about what's happening so you can avoid what we're seeing right now. Okay, and what are the consequences? These consequences don't disappear after press cycles. So just because the press comes, yes, we are going to dismiss this person with no pay. But then as soon as the press leaves, okay, come back to work. Okay. So there needs to be consequences that don't disappear after press cycles. All right. Now, good systems, they will assume that humans will mess up. You're not doing it because you uh, it's just like telling a Caribbean mom to get life insurance. Do you want me to die? Is what you will tell me. Because then me and my siblings, we got life insurance and funeral insurance on my mom. Like when I say she threw a fit. So good systems, we assume things will happen. Just like we know death happens, right? So people with life insurance. So systems, you get it in place to ensure that you have something to guide your actions when all heck breaks loose. Okay? In bad systems, it pretends that bad things will not happen. And you can't live like that. You have to prepare for every eventuality. So when things happen, you're prepared. And that's what good systems do. Okay? And this is where a lot of people may get uncomfortable. Like the example I give you of my mom not wanting life insurance or different types of insurances. There are a lot of Caribbean people, as soon as you talk about will, they start thinking like, oh, you gonna do something to me, right? So it's not like that, right? You cannot get uncomfortable with preparing your company with systems and a good operational framework to support the work you're doing and lead you to sustainable growth. All right. So, a few things that I know I've shared a couple of times. Well, last week. Oftentimes, leaders don't want to fix what's broken or what's making them work inefficiently because of ego, right? And I'll talk a little bit about that. Because then, when I say ego, I've met a few leaders that refused, or not refused, they pretended they wanted to fix the problem, but never fixed it. And I started thinking, are they actually addicted to being the solution to every problem because it makes them feel needed or keeps them at the center? So that I peeled back a few layers and I came down to ego. Sometimes ego is what leads people to not want to fix systems. So you have to really be objective about what's happening here. Is it ego that's the problem? Is that what's causing the leaders not to fix the systems that are broken? Because whether that's the issue or not, I want you to get out of your own way. Sometimes you have to get out of your own way and fix what's needed so you can actually move forward. And like there are other reasons, like different things like cost, fear of cost. If you're afraid of the cost, have you ever taken your grocery bill and ran it like the numbers for a whole year and see how much it costs you? Or do you have a toddler and pay daycare and see how much that costs you? It can be fear of cost. Because in some costs, sometimes they say actions justify the means justify whatever, the ends justify the means. The cost may justify it. Because then if you focus on your systems and operations, you may end up seeing everything run so smoothly. Revenue generation will be easier because you have a system in place that allows you to focus on revenue generation. So fear of cost is definitely one that I see, but I can't talk people off of that because your fear is real, your feelings are real, and I can't do anything about it except walk away until you figure it out, right? And the other thing, we've always done things this way, where some people are so comfortable in doing it in the way that they've been doing it that they've never considered a more efficient way of doing things. Okay. So that's it from my end because I think I've gone over the time that I told myself I would go. I was planning to be here for an hour, but I can't do it, not today. I don't want to take a nap. So, but yeah, systems don't fail randomly, people. Okay. System fails because there's been a lack of leadership somewhere where people or the leaders of the organization did not make a necessary choice because leadership ends up being a choice and harm can be predictable if you actually plan for every eventuality. Okay. If your organization or company cannot explain how decisions are made, right? It cannot claim accountability. And if you're in leadership, the responsibility ends up being yours, whether you want it or not, because then you never establish what that looked like. Okay. So this is the work I am spending my life on because that's what brings me joy is doing operational work and work on systems and doing trainings for teams and leaders and doing capacity building activities. That's what I enjoy because helping leaders build systems that don't break people is where I'm at and what I enjoy doing. So if you're interested in learning more about what I do and what I'm doing, go ahead and hit the follow button. Follow my page because that's all I talk about. And let's get to know each other because I know trust is everything. And I'm a very straight shooter. I took a break from going live in December, but I am coming back slowly but surely. But definitely hit the follow button, follow my page, and join. If you're on Facebook, add me as a friend, comment. I would love to get to know you, and so we can talk a little bit more. Okay. But, anyways, I'm going to get off this computer and if I can figure out where every button is, but let me do that. And I hope everybody has a great evening and good seeing you. TikTok, it's been a while since I came live on TikTok. And go ahead and like if you want. I'm going to shut Facebook off first. Bye, Facebook. Thank you so much, y'all.